Hi, friends. I hope you had a nice weekend. Memorial Day is always one of my favorite holidays. It's always my youngest sister Libby's birthday, and my family tends to go out to my grandparents' lake house over by Shipshewana, which is in Indiana. And even though this time of year feels different than it typically does, we still all went out there and enjoyed the sunshine. We stayed apart from one another, um, but we still enjoyed one another's company. We're able to get out on the boat and enjoy the sunshine. So I hope you had a great weekend too. And today is Tuesday, May 26th of 2020. And we didn't have school on Monday because it was Memorial Day. So instead of what's missing Monday, we're going to do what's missing Tuesday. So in those green and blue columns, you have some subtraction problems. Go ahead and find the missing part, whether it's the answer or one of the numbers being taken away. And in the 100 column, you have some more division practice. A few of you have asked me about that division work and what material you could use to help yourself. The unit division board is one, the stamp game is another. And if you can notice a pattern between multiplication and division, that's also a clue. A few of you have found that opposite relationship. So look closely if you haven't yet. All right, for this week, we are going to read the story, The Value of Helping. And Harriet Tubman is going to be our character. So I'm going to get closer to the camera so I can show you these lovely illustrations. I'm going to do my best to keep it in screen. There we go. Better. Hello there. Here I am, up here in the sky. You can call me Starry. I've seen a lot from up here, but nothing like the story of a little girl named Harriet who became famous for helping people. You can imagine me as her true voice, the voice inside her that Harriet listened to when things were difficult. Of course, she couldn't really see me, but perhaps she imagined me as a star, as you will soon discover. So, if you're ready, let's begin. Once upon a time, there was a young girl named Harriet. Harriet was born during a time when it was actually legal to own another person in certain parts of the United States. Harriet was a slave, and she was forced to work very hard for the man who owned her. At harvest time, Harriet and the other slaves picked corn late into the night. While they worked, they would often sing a song about the people of Israel who had been held captive as slaves in Egypt. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. I wonder if anyone will help us the way Moses helped the people of Israel escape from Egypt, Harriet would say. The slaves would often whisper about places where black people could be free. There aren't any slaves in the northern states, said Harriet's father. All the people there are free men and free women. I want to go north, Daddy, said Harriet. I want to be free. You see that star up there? Said her father. The big one there, that never moves. That's the North Star. When you get older, you can go north. Just keep that star in front of you. It will take you to freedom. That's where I come in. As Harriet looked at the real North Star, she imagined that she had a star inside her that would guide her. I became her true voice, that special friend inside of each person that helps you listen to your own best thoughts. As Harriet got older, her desire for freedom grew stronger. She heard stories about something called the Underground Railroad. What is the Underground Railroad, Harriet? I asked her. It's a secret way to escape to freedom, she explained. Some white people and black people help slaves travel along safe paths. The houses the slaves hide in are called stations on the railroad. Many slaves made it to freedom, but Harriet saw how slaves who were caught were brought back in chains. She was too scared to attempt it herself. Instead, Harriet decided she would work hard, baking pies and then selling them door to door to earn money. You see, if slaves could make enough money to give to their owners, they were sometimes able to buy their freedom. Starry, Harriet asked me, how many pies do you think I'll have to bake to earn enough money? I think we're getting closer, Harriet, I whispered. Let's keep baking. Harriet listened to herself, smiled, and went back to work more determined than ever to secure her freedom. Determined? Who else have we read about that was determined? Do you remember? While out selling her pies, Harriet met a woman who saw how determined she was to be free. If you want to escape, she said to Harriet, I can send you to people who will help you along the way. That's when I whispered to Harriet, if you accept her help, it can get you to a place where you may be able to help other slaves. Harriet thought a long time about whether she should attempt to escape. Harriet knew that there were people who were risking their own freedom in order to help slaves like herself, but it still would be very dangerous. Do you have people who help you in your life? One day, Harriet heard a rumor that her owner was going to sell her. Harriet made up her mind then and there that she was going to escape. She set out that very night and headed into the woods. Don't be afraid, I whispered to her. Your daddy always said if you follow the North Star, it would take you north to freedom. You can do it. You're strong, and you've got the courage to be free. Harriet needed her courage. She went on for 15 more nights, struggling through the darkness. She tumbled into holes, and she tore her clothes on thorns. In the daytime, she hid in barns and cellars because there were men out everywhere searching for runaway slaves. But all along the way, she found people to help her. They passed her along from one helpful person to the next, until at last she crossed into the north. Do you think Harriet will be safe now? Freedom was as wonderful as Harriet had thought it would be. Harriet knew that she'd be safe if she remained in the north, but she couldn't help but think about the many slaves who didn't have their freedom yet. She soon joined the Underground Railroad herself so she could help others. Over the next 10 years, Harriet helped so many slaves escape to freedom that people started to call her Moses. Look, Harriet, I pointed. There are posters offering money for your capture. Harriet was afraid of what would happen if she were captured, but she continued. Harriet found many other ways to help. When the Civil War began, she joined the Northern Army and traveled to the South to act as a nurse for injured soldiers. She organized the local slaves to help spy on the Southern forces. She even acted as a spy herself and helped plan an attack on a Southern plantation that freed over 750 slaves. When the war was over, even after all she had done, Harriet was only allowed to ride home lying flat on the floor of the train's baggage compartment. She had to ride where all of the bags went. Starry, we have a long way to go before we're really free. I was too sad to even answer her. When she got home, Harriet let people know about the horrible way she had been treated. The newspapers spread her story, and many people who read it became upset. Over time, more and more people worked harder to make things better. Today, thanks to the help of Harriet and many others like her, many people are treated more fairly. But there is still much work to be done. Now, as our story ends, you might want to think about yourself. You may not face the same struggles in your life as Harriet, but whatever you do, you may discover that when you help people in big or in small ways, you can be happier too, just like our good friend, Harriet Tubman. Now, since we have a short week, in addition to listening to the story today, let's explore our first two story elements. So the first one is the characters. So go ahead and think about our two different types of characters. Who is our main character? And what do you know about that main character? Go ahead and record that. Secondly, think about who are our support characters. Who are the characters that help the main character along the way? I think there were a lot of supportive people who helped Harriet along the way. Can you think of that? Maybe you don't know their name exactly, but you can describe the actions they did, which were supportive. There also might have been some characters who were not supportive, who were trying to keep Harriet back from doing the work she wanted to. Those are also support characters because they help tell the story. And secondly, where does this story take place and when? Now, you might not know the exact state, you may not know the exact year, and that's okay. But describe what's going on in the world at this time. What's happening in the location? What is it about this setting, about this time and this place, which leads to Harriet Tubman doing her big work of helping? Think about that and go ahead and record it. Or if you are sharing this information orally by speaking with your parent, do so now. And then let's wrap up with a Where Am I? One of our biomes. Hold on. This is the world's largest biome, covering more than 70% of the Earth. This biome is inhabited by many types of animals and plants of all sizes, from the microscopic zooplankton, which are the tiniest animal, and the phytoplankton, which are very small algae, which take the sunlight and convert it into food, to the large whale family and beds of sea kelp. We've heard a lot about kelp in Island of the Blue Dolphins. Some of the Earth's oldest inhabitants live in this biome. If you're still not sure, I'll give you another hint. This biome is broken down into 4 big ones: the Arctic, Indian, Pacific, and Atlantic. Where am I? Tune into tomorrow's morning greeting to hear the answer to that. Continue to explore Harriet Tubman and her ways in which she helped others, and we'll review what was missing today and look at the next number talk. Have a great Tuesday, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you at the community meeting.